Watch what's approaching, the supreme moment. Reality striking closer than it seems, don't it? Go ahead, it's for the taking if you want it. If not, the dream dies and you'll be forever haunted. Then confront it.
Hey, what's good? So today we are going to be testing the Kamehameha Category Team with a couple of updates. It's been a while since I've tested this team, but it is a lot of fun to run this category setup, and I want to kind of cover some of the units from a top level before I break it down on a detailed level. So just from the get-go, the new units, relatively new units, are the LR Kaioken Blue Goku and Evolution Vegeta. You've got the LR UI Goku, and as well as obviously the Gogeta Blue and Vegito Blue that dropped on global earlier, last night or whatever the case is. Now, of course, LR Gohan and the Go Bros are also on the team. They're more or less going to be used as floaters because I wanted to run this team very specifically for this particular run. So, as you can see, UI Goku and the Kaioken Blue Goku and Evolution Vegeta are set up on one rotation. And of course, the Gogeta Blue and Vegito Blue are going to be on the other rotation. It's just one of those things I wanted to test out because, quite frankly, I've ran rotations with LR Gohan and Go Bros like all the damn time. You know what I mean? So just to switch things up, because they do link up, like these two units, UI Goku and Kaioken Blue Goku and let's just call it Goku and Vegeta. Those guys link up pretty well. Of course, Gogeta Blue and Vegito Blue link up very well as well. So that's pretty much the format. I kind of hate to put them in floater spots when it comes to Gohan and then Gohan and Goten, but for this particular run, I wanted to set up in that way. Now, the other thing to note is the fact that Vegito Blue, Gogeta Blue, UI Goku, and Goku and Vegeta all are at 55% potential, so that'll give you some sort of indication of how they perform at that level, right? Essentially no dupes. Now, Gohan is at 90%, I believe, and then the Go Bros are obviously at 100 potential, as you saw in the first part of the video. So that's pretty much the format. Now, let's go ahead and talk about the units themselves. This is kind of a, I recorded the entire run, so this video is a little bit, relatively on the longer side, so I do have time to kind of break down each of the units and talk about it. The first thing I want to start off by saying is pre-transformation for Gogeta Blue and Vegito Blue. They have the ability to raise attack, essentially the Kaioken mechanic, right, where you can stack attack with every super attack. So ideally, you want them to show up in the first or second rotation, because after they transform, they lose that ability. Basically, they're able to raise their attack or defense just by one turn. So pre-transformation, which the transformation actually takes place from the fourth turn from the start of battle. So up until that point, you can stack that attack. And it does make a little bit of a difference. So you definitely do want to do that as much as possible. Ideally, again, you want them to show up in the first, second rotation. In this run, it worked out well because I ended up getting all the units to be on the proper rotation with a perfect start. So that's pretty much where I'll leave things at. In terms of the units themselves, of course they get Ki +3, additional attack abilities or effective attack against all types. We're not really let's just talk about the transform state, right? So basically the Vegito Blue status and the Gogeta Blue. So we'll start off with Vegito Blue. So again, with the super attack, the 12 key will essentially raise attack and defense for one turn. The 18 key will raise defense for one turn, along with causing mega colossal damage to enemy. Both of these units do get that 77% toward attack and defense, along with a Ki +2 for Vegito Blue and then Ki +5 for Gogeta Blue. Now, both of these guys also do have the ability to launch additional super attacks, and then Ki up to, Ki +1 up to 5, and then attack and defense increase of 7% up to a max of 77% with every attack performed, right? So essentially, it's kind of a build-up process for this unit, or these units, I should say. I actually love that format because the longer battles, you really do incrementally see the units get stronger and stronger, and I kind of enjoy that, especially again with the longer battles. It makes it a lot more fun when you're running through events and stuff like that. Now again, both of these units also do have a secondary passive, essentially launching an additional super attack and high chance of evading enemies' attack, including supers, as the third attacker in the turn. Along with that, if you do decide to use the active skill, you can essentially do that in the third slot. and then move back over to the first or second, and you'll basically have the benefits of the active skill, which is the ability to greatly raise attack temporarily, causes ultimate damage to enemy, and then can be activated facing only one enemy whose HP is 50% or less, starting from the next attacking turn, one time only, stuff like that. So it definitely makes things quite interesting. So yeah, it's pretty cool actually. So with that being said, those are the first 2 units, and I don't even I'm kind of reading off the bat right here, so I haven't been keeping track of the battle, but I think from what I just saw, Vegito Blue looks like 2.5 million in attack stats, and trust me, it'll increase a lot more than that over the course of the battle. Now, UI Goku is also very cool to run. Essentially, you get ki boost and attack and defense boost up to 77%. Ki is up to a max of 7 with each attack evaded, including super. So of course, you kind of want to put him in harm's way initially at the beginning of the battle to build him up as quickly as possible. Again, this is based on starting from basically, like, it's kind of crazy how the setup is, because like you can build it up, and then like for the start of for the 7 turns from the start of battle, I guess you should say, he's already got a built-in great chance of evading enemies' attacks. Great chance essentially equates to a 70%. Now that will come down to a high chance of evading enemies' attack starting from the 8th turn. So basically, you want to build up that attack and defense as much as possible early on, as well as a ki boost, because it does help guarantee the 18 ki super attack. The other good thing about this guy is definitely disables enemies' guards, so that's always a nice little feature to have for a unit as well. And then if we move on to the Goku and Vegeta unit, these guys are pretty interesting as well. One of the things I think it's worth noting is the fact that this is definitely one of the units that does struggle a little bit with the 18 ki super attack. A lot of these other units kind of build themselves up when it comes to the ki meter, so it makes it a little bit easier for them to get the 18 ki super. But in these guys' cases, it's a little bit more difficult. So you kind of have to plan ahead and make sure they're able to get it. A lot of times on this run, I wasn't able to get it, and it's okay, because mostly I wanted these guys to link up with the UI Goku anyway and see how they would perform overall. So, with that being said, super attack for these guys greatly raise attack and defense for 1 turn for both the 12 and 18 ki super attack. Also does lower attack for both, but the 18 ki super attack will lower defense as well. Passive skills, attack and defense increases 70%, plus an additional attack and defense increases 7% per ki sphere obtained. Chance of performing a critical hit increased by 7%. And then ki plus 2 and launches an additional attack up to 3 with each rainbow ki sphere obtained. So obviously you want to incorporate all those, because having a nuking passive, critical hit chance increase, and then the odds of increasing your chance of additional attack based on obtaining rainbow ki is certainly important. These guys do have an active skill as well, and you'll see that toward the latter part of the battle. Ki plus 24, attack increases 70%, but defense minus 50% for 1 turn. And you can activate this when HP is 50% or less. This is more or less one of those where it's kind of, it kind of goes with quote unquote desperate struggle category, right? You're going essentially all out for that one move and trying to eliminate the enemy, right? So that's pretty much the way I would look at it. Gohan Goten, LR Gohan Goten, I don't think we really need to talk about it as much. I think it's a pretty commonly known unit. Of course, they do have the ability to increase ki by 1 and attack and defense by 10% with each attack performed. So obviously, the more attacks that come in, the easier it is to get them closer to that 18 ki meter. And they're quite good. I mean, honestly, we don't really need to talk about it as much, but they are very good units. I personally love them. They're probably easily my top 5 LRs in the game, so I do love them a lot and run them a lot when I can. LR Gohan, I mean, is again, another well-known unit, so not really a need to talk about it. The only thing worth highlighting is even though this guy's being used as a floater in this run, he's still able to stack defense. So I think, toward the end of the battle, I mean, defensive abilities, you're looking at, quite a bit of an increase in numbers. And I do show the defensive stats throughout, the battle here and there. So you'll be able to see the defensive abilities for every single unit. I kind of, try to do it within gaps of the run so you'd be able to see it. So that's pretty much the, the narrative as to how the team itself was. I mean, again, this is a very fun team to run. I think what would probably potentially benefit this setup is maybe having some sort of orb changer that could potentially, help with the field. Of course, when you have a team filled with LRs, key can certainly be an issue in some cases, but I think for this particular setup, there's enough units where they build themselves up with key built into the skill set, so it's not as great of an as an issue that it could be on some of the other setups. So fortunately, they are pretty self-sustainable, and it works out pretty well. So again, it's a little bit tricky with the Goku and Vegeta unit because of, you do have to obtain key spheres in order to get that full advantage, and that does include getting the rainbow key spheres in order to, fully take advantage of the additional attack ability. But with that being said, I mean, at 55% potential, they could be somewhat underwhelming in a way. I mean, you could look at it that way, but at the same time, they do provide a lot of benefits. I think the biggest one is the ability to lower attack. That definitely does help. Additional attacks obviously do help as well, and the built-in crits are also beneficial. So, and you saw UI Goku with 4.2 million in attack stats. Again, this guy is at 55% potential. So, the longer the battle drags out, the better these guys get. For the fusion, or not fusion, but the 5-year units, looks like at this point, against the Super Saiyan 2 Kill, they built up their defense enough to about 100,000, which isn't bad by any means. Gohan was quite up there. I didn't catch that one, but I assume he's several 100,000 up there in defensive stats, and that's pretty much obvious. So, even as a floater, he's still able to get the defense quite high. So, again, very phenomenal unit in that regard. So this is an interesting section right here. I decided to take a stab and just gamble right here, right? Ideally, you want to put the Goku and Vegeta, but I said screw it. We're going to put the UI Goku up front because I want to be able to collect some key with the Goku and Vegeta unit. So that's pretty much what I did here. And honestly, if he dodges, that's great. If he doesn't, it could be trouble. So yeah, so right here, Caulifla decides to super, and let's see what happens, right? So doesn't dodge, 272,000 in damage taken, so that definitely hurt. Potentially could have ruined my run, but as you can see where we are in the video status, we didn't die just yet. So that's the thing about UI Goku, right? As phenomenal of a unit he is, when he doesn't dodge, could certainly be a liability, but that's really what makes it fun, right? And that's kind of the same thing with the Easy 8 for Super Saiyan 3 Broly, the tech version. Of course, the guy is known as a glass cannon, and everybody has a right to call it that. But it could certainly make things interesting where you are penalized by every key obtained, right? So essentially, by gaining power and increasing attack stats, you're sacrificing defense. Those types of gambling, it could potentially make things interesting. You know what I mean? So that's probably my opinion on it. Probably not the most ideal unit to bring on Super Battle Road or Extreme Super Battle Road, but from a general running on a team standpoint, it could certainly make things quite more interesting than just having a bunch of units that are absolute tanks or offensively powerhouses that also do have good defense, so it kind of brings in a different blend to the picture a little bit. So that's kind of the way I would look at it. At the end of the day, we still have several options to run different units, so not everyone's going to be a platinum hit, you know what I mean? Every now and then you're going to have your issues with certain units, even with an Easy A. So we'll leave it at that and go back to the run here with the Kamehameha team. So again, toward the latter parts of the battle, these guys become pretty good, and I'm sure the ones that watched the 55% potential that came out yesterday for the 5-year LRs, you guys already know how good they are at even at 55% potential. You could top off at over 5 million in attack stats, given maybe one support unit on the floater position, and for a 55% potential unit, even if it's a LR, that's quite phenomenal to have. So even with one copy, those guys are absolute monsters. And the same can be said for UI Goku. The Goku and Vegeta is a little bit more of a tricky one. I can't quite say they're absolutely broken, but you'll see here in a second. They can definitely get their attack stats certainly higher, and this is one of those areas you'll be able to see that. I do like this active skill animation though. It definitely does bring it a little bit more live. You know what I mean? Like it definitely heats things up, and it's like, all right, shit's about to get brolic. You know what I mean? So that's pretty much the way I look at it. All right, so let's see if so we're gonna offset that defensive penalty decrease of 70% by essentially using the Android 8 item, which will increase defense by 50%. So that'll offset some of the liability issues, but plus HP was pretty low at that point anyway. All right, so he didn't dodge there. 133k in damage taken, 3.8 million attack stats. That's certainly more than I wouldn't say acceptable, but respectable is probably the right word. For a 55% potential unit to be able to produce that, I think it's well more than reasonable in my opinion. All right, and as you saw, pretty decent attack stats right there. Obviously, the active skill was used, but even then, still powerful units. And I feel bad about Gohan and Goten because, one, they're floaters, right, in this run, but also it took them a while to fully build up their passive, right, with the key and attack and defense increase. Typically, I do like to put them in either the first or second rotation and in the first or second slot, not necessarily a floater, because those guys can hit for a lot of damage per rotation because of built-in additional supers and whatnot. So I think for that one, my setup, I'm trying to remember the setup. I think it was like 17 additionals, 14 crits or something like that. I basically applied some skill orbs to them and made sure, they had a little bit more focus on additional attacks, just to take advantage of their skill sets. But, overall, it's, again, one of my favorite LRs in the game. Now, I will go ahead and say and clear the air that my favorite LR in the game is definitely Tech LR Broly. I just love that unit. Absolute powerhouse, but that's kind of, it's a good representation of Broly as a character. So I do love that unit the most out of the group. But these 5-year LRs are certainly pretty powerful too. I mean, 4.1 million attack stats for Vegito Blue, and then we'll see what Vegito Blue has. They're both unique in their own way. I think for shorter term offensive type battles, Gogeta Blue is certainly good. Vegito Blue is definitely a little bit better defensively, plus he does have the built-in additionals. So Gogeta Blue also does have like the effective attack against all types. So each of them have their own unique skill sets, and I think it ultimately comes down to preference of which unit is better. I mean, I don't think it's objectively answerable. I don't know if that's a word or not, but basically it's subjective to each person to gauge which one's better, honestly. So I'll leave it at that. I hate determining which one's better over the two when at the end of the day it comes down to each player's deck and how useful it is to each person based on the types of categories and characters you have. So that's pretty much the takeaway with that, and we'll leave it at that, I suppose. All right, we're getting close, and we'll be able to apply some decent damage, but I'm really hoping that Hit is not defeated, because I definitely do want to finish off the run in a kind of a special fashion, right? We haven't used the active skills on the 5-year LRs just yet, so it'd be nice to be able to finish it off like that. Yeah, I mean, 3.31 million attack stats. It's not bad. Again, it can fluctuate in range depending on how much in key you obtain, because they do have a nuking passive. So that's really what makes it a little bit more tricky using these guys over others. And of course, with more dupes toward additionals and super critical hits, they obviously become a lot better as well. Alright, so just about 1 HP bar left over. You know what's going to happen now. I mean, once you get the enemy's HP 50% or less, you're able to use the active skills on these guys. So I think in this case we're gonna have to use Vegito Blue because the KO screen looks pretty nice with this one, as well as the active skill themselves. Alright, so hopefully you guys enjoyed the video with the Kamehameha Category Team setup with some of the newer units on the game. So again, thanks for watching as always, and definitely stay tuned for the next one. Alright, peace out.